I belong to a local wood turning club, and the club encourages us to bring in items that we've turned. So when you do that, there is a table that has different things available. Like they have blanks. Sometimes they have, some small gift cards. Um, one club meeting in particular, I took in a bowl that I had made, and this blank was sitting there on the table. It's two pieces of maple that were glued together. The blank was about 5 inches square, about 16 inches long, and I was trying to come up with an idea of what I could make. I've never made a vase, so I thought that I would give that a try. So I kind of came up with a plan as to how I was going to go about this. I've not done a lot of hollowing, and I don't really have the proper hollowing set up to get all the way to the bottom of what this vase would be. So I decided that I would part it in the middle. So once I have this parted, I'm going to take the largest Forstner bit I have right now and get rid of as much of the material as possible right off the bat. So once I've got that inch or so of material out of the way, just going to establish a bottom, get it rounded, and get the walls a little bit thinner. And now the inside of this bottom half anyway is about where I want it. I'm just going to clean up the face here. I've decided to make up 3 segmented rings to go into the middle of this piece. So here I'm just going to prep this bottom half to accept the first ring. So I've decided to make the rings for the middle of this out of wenge. I decided to put 3 rings in the middle of this vase and then put one larger ring on the top. Each ring will have 12 segments, and I've got my wedgie sled all set up for that. Now I've done a few segmented pieces, and all of them I've used this wedgie sled. Now as I cut each piece, I'm going to number them so then I can put them back in order when it's all done. Now that's one of the keys in getting a nice tight ring with this wedgie sled. I have a project that I'm planning on right now that will also involve using this wedgie sled, and I'll probably do a little bit more detail when I cut that ring. I've got a top ring that I'm going to be making that will be segmented for that project. Now I know it looks like my fingers are very close to the blade, but my line of sight is right down the edge of that sled and into the blade, so I do make sure every time I push that sled in, my fingers are far enough away from the blade. Now here as I clean the fuzz off of each one of these pieces, I'm putting them back in numerical order. Now I'm just going to throw a rubber band on here and look at how tight this ring is. The one thing I will do when I clamp this together to glue it, I turn over or turn upside down every other segment, and that will also help to get a tighter ring. Now I have all 4 rings glued together, and I use some Purple Heart veneer that I put in between each one of the segments, and I'll put it also in between each ring and the maple part of the vase. Trying to go for a brick pattern with the Purple Heart. It's very thin and it might not be visible or real visible. I'm just hoping it's you can see it well enough. I'm just going to use the lathe here to get that first ring glued on. There you can see the thin Purple Heart veneer. And then my first wenge ring. Now I decided to go with about 5/16 of an inch for the thickness on each ring. So I'm getting that prepped here and gluing on the second ring. Now this is prepping the second ring of the 3. So now, of course, I've got the top half of the vase mounted in the chuck to hollow out that, well, the bottom part of the top part, I guess. Now you'll notice that my belt cover is off. I've been noticing a noise in my lathe, and I'm trying to determine if it's in the headstock. The Reeves drive all looks okay. The belt looks like it's in fair shape. You know, I've lubed everything up and cleaned everything out, so I've got to determine whether it's a bearing noise. They don't feel too bad, so I'll just have to keep an eye on that for sure. Now with the top half of the vase prepped, this is the third of the 3 rings on the bottom half. So I'll get that back down to size and get it prepped so that I can glue the 2 halves back together. Now once I got the top piece glued on, I noticed that this area in here should have been done a little better. I should have taken a little more time at this point. It would have been a lot easier to shape that and get it a little more to how I wanted it. I was able to get it in the end, but it would have been a lot better to do that here. And you can see here it's glued back together. Just establishing the outside shape I'm going to have right here in this middle of the vase. I want to take a couple inches off the bottom and then also part off the top, you know, at the top of that where it flares back out. I'm also going to put a tenon on the bottom here so I can throw it in the chuck once I get both ends shortened up. Now with it shorter, I can chuck it back in the lathe and I'll finish parting off the top. Now I started to get some vibration as I was out here turning on the end. I don't have a steady rest. I'll have to build one, but I don't have one made up yet. So I just had to take it slow and easy, you know, cleaning this end out. I'm just doing some final prep for that last ring that's going on the top here. Again, I had a lot of vibration I was dealing with out here. Just had to take it real easy, real light cuts, you know, just a little at a time. Now finally some last minute touches on that outside shape. Just getting the right curve in there that I wanted. Now for some really quick sanding. I wish it was always that quick when you're trying to sand something down. So I'm trying something new to me, the Triple E Ultra Shine. I hadn't used it before, and I gotta say I'm pretty happy with the results. It really polished this vase up really well. And following up the Ultra Shine with the Shallow Wax. Now while I was wiping this on, I didn't get all the way around and it was starting to dry out already. Now it did say to put it on when it wasn't running, and I know I looked at the website before I bought this cream, and they have the liquid, and I'm pretty sure the liquid is meant to be used on smaller objects, and the cream on larger objects like this. I didn't think it was going to dry out that fast, but nonetheless, it left a really nice shine on this piece. Yeah, now the dangerous part of reverse chucking to remove the tenon on the bottom. If you're wondering, it is not in that coal jaw set very far or very secure. And I'm just got to leave this tailstock up for support just as long as I can. Really kind of wanted to dish the end of it out, which I was able to do, once I got the tailstock out of the way. I was just trying to be so careful that I didn't pull this out of the coal jaws. And at one point I actually did. It did bounce off the lathe bed. It didn't go too far across the floor. It left a very small nick down towards the bottom, and the bottom must have bounced on the floor because it did dent that bottom ring in a little bit. But that sanding, I was able to take it right back out. Just reapplying the Triple E to clean up the side that I had to resand, and then to apply some on the bottom of it. Now the last of the shallow wax on the bottom to bring out the shine. Some very careful polishing. Be horrible to push that thing out of that cold jaw set right now, that's for sure. Now to take a minute to say hi to Sadie. I really do like how the Triple E and the shallow wax shine this piece up. Thank you for watching.